afternoon. Welcome to the Senate Government Operations Committee. We are televised today. I just thought I'd let you know that in case any of you are camera shy. I'm pretty doubtful that anybody up here is. The committee will now come to order. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll today?
Senator Richardville?
Here.
Senator Hildenbrand? Senator Meekoff?
Here.
Senator Whitmer?
Here.
Mr. Chair, you have Senator Hunter? Mr. Chair, you have 3 members present and a quorum.
Thank you. Today we are scheduled to have testimony on 2 House bills. House Bill 4271, sponsored by Representative Michael Colton, who I believe is here. I saw him a little while ago. And House Bill 5104, sponsored by Representative Eileen Kowall. I believe both of them are here today. Just a reminder that today we are taking testimony only. There won't be a vote today. We're going to take the feedback that we get from this meeting, do some research, and talk to some other people about it too. But we wanted to have the people that are interested in these bills to have the opportunity to speak publicly today, and so that we could react to them, hopefully in a relative future meeting. At this time, I'd like to see if both Representative Colton and Representative Kowall could come up together, give us some testimony on your bills. Following that, I know that we have individuals here that have submitted some written testimony. All the copies of the written testimony have been made and given to the members, so we have that in front of us. And then there are a number of other people that have filled out cards that would like to speak. There's a conference committee that I have to attend this afternoon, so I'm not sure how long we will go. I will let you know this: if we don't get through everybody today, at the next meeting we will give you the priority to testify first. We'll do the best we can, though. And if as much as you can, be as succinct as you can, because we do have a lot of people that some of them came from a long way. Don't sacrifice what you're going to say, but if it's possible to say it succinctly, that's great. And I know, Representative Colton, that's especially hard for you, but I love you as a friend and a colleague, and so I will yield the floor to you and Representative Kowall.
Well, good afternoon, Mr. Chair and committee members. Thank you for taking testimony on these 2 bills this afternoon. I would just like to say, first of all, I think that you know that Representative Colton and I have to be in session in less than half an hour, so we'll be here to present and maybe stick around for a bit to answer questions, but then duty calls elsewhere. Senate Bill 5104 seeks to provide patients with access to safer methods of treatment and more reliable sources of marijuana. Interpretations of the Medical Marijuana Act's language have limited patient access to methods of treatment that best alleviate symptoms of their debilitating medical conditions. HB5104 is about clarifying these discrepancies and restoring those opportunities. Patients are allowed a combination of usable marijuana and marijuana-infused product not to exceed 2.5 ounces, as is currently allowed under the Act. And despite some misconceptions, this does not include stems, seeds, or roots of the plant. We define marijuana-infused products, the equivalents, because it's really hard to tell by looking at a brownie or looking at a liquid or whatever how much is in it. So we have 16 ounces of infused solid, 7 grams of infused gas, and 72 ounces of liquid. And we have some pretty strict labeling requirements for this. All infused products are to be labeled and individually packaged with the weight in ounces of the product, the name of the individual that manufactured the product, date on which the product was manufactured, the date of transaction, and the name of the caregiver or provisioning center. Transfers are strictly defined, and breaking the transfer leads to a 2-year or $2,000 fine. Transfers prohibited under 5104 are patients transferring an infused product to any individual that's not obviously a patient, a caregiver transferring to anyone they're not directly connected to through the registration process, and provisioning center non-patient or caregiver. So 19 states allow the medical use of marijuana. Most of these states define usable marijuana as the dried leaves and flowers of the marijuana plant and any mixture or preparation thereof. Some states add appropriate for medical use on the end of the sentence. All the 19 states define possession limits as ounces of marijuana and numbers of marijuana plants. Some states include resins in the definition of usable marijuana. A few states refer to the marijuana-infused products or edible marijuana products. Some of these states define these products and stipulate that the weight of usable marijuana does not include food. And I guess just in general, what brought me to this was having a couple of families come to see me at coffee hours, and the one family brought along their daughter, but both families had children who suffered from horrible seizures, and they had been through all the medical Main Street type treatments and nothing worked, and their next step was to try a veterinary medicine, and they were instead referred to try the medical marijuana, and it made a huge difference in their children and in their lives. So they were very upset with the Carruthers decision because they felt that by continuing to treat their children, they had to be criminals to do so. So this is an effort for people to be able to legitimately use medical marijuana. It's not another way for people. The people are already being bad and doing things wrong. They're going to do it regardless. So it's just to help those people that want safe access to this product. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony and also for explaining the intentions. I think it's important that everybody hears that. Not everybody knows about some of the struggles that people go through and how they're trying to alleviate, in some cases, pain, in some cases more than that. Any questions for Representative Kowall? Representative Colton.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Members of the committee, thank you for taking up this important issue. House Bill 4271 is the product of several years of discussions. It's been extensively work grouped with law enforcement, LARA, municipal groups, and medical marijuana advocates all at the table. This is a balanced approach to the issue of safe access while respecting the rights of municipalities to say no. House Bill 4271 establishes provisioning centers. These centers are locally regulated dispensaries purchasing their product from caregiver and patient overages, testing that product to ensure it's free from contamination, and then record who purchases it and when. These records are stored for a minimum of 90 days. These centers cannot be within 1,000 feet of a pre-existing primary or secondary school. They cannot share office space with a physician. They must also have an alarm system installed. These centers must be able to label their product, including the name of the patient, certification that the product has been tested and does not contain contamination, the weight of the preparation and usable marijuana, and a warning label that the product does contain marijuana. Provisioning centers create the ability to manufacture medical edibles. Any food product must be prepared under conditions similar to bakeries or other food prep sites. Excuse me. These centers are governed by either the cities, villages, or townships. This local control is central to our approach. If any municipality feels that this is not for them, they can say no. If a municipality wants to place a cap on how many provisioning centers can do business within their limits, they can. Law enforcement is given extensive abilities to monitor and inspect these centers at their discretion. A municipality can charge a fee to cover the additional costs of having a provisioning center operating in their community. Provisioning centers cannot employ an individual convicted of a felony in the prior 10-year period or someone under the age of 21. They must conduct a background check. The bill also states that a patient cannot purchase more than the allowable limit within a 10-day period. The allowable limit is tied to what a patient can possess under the Michigan Medical Marijuana Act. We have also covered the issue of transporting, making sure detailed logs of who the product is for, where it has come from, and who it is assigned to are kept. This is to ensure that there are certain protections for those transporting medical marijuana from provisioning center to testing facility and back. While in transport, the medical marijuana must be kept in a locked container, the trunk, or in a space that is inaccessible from the passenger to the compartment of that vehicle. Finally, we've created a testing entity called a secure testing facility that is subject to the same restrictions and requirements as provisioning centers. These facilities will conduct the testing component of this bill and provide the results to the provisioning centers. What this bill does not do is instantly reopen all dispensaries that were closed. We had heard that there was an opinion out there that once this bill is passed, all those dispensaries that were once shut down will reopen. This is simply not true. What we're trying to do is put the ball in the courts of municipalities. giving them the authority to say yes or no. The only thing we have placed in this bill that is a presumption that those dispensaries that are still operating under the approval of their locals can remain open, provided they conform to the regulations prescribed in this bill and that they are not ordered closed by their community. There have also been questions as to why this hasn't been put under LARA and allowed to go statewide as opposed to local control. The simple answer is that they do not have the resources to implement and operate a statewide program, and they have expressed a desire not to be placed in that position. Also, local control allows for municipalities to have a say in what is going on in their communities. One other question we've asked is why this is needed if we've already passed Senate Bill 660. While it's true that the legislature did pass out that bill, it's a long-term approach relying on the rescheduling of marijuana. The federal government's made little progress in that issue. Provisioning centers are a solution for the here and now, to provide safe access for patients while at the same time being sensitive to concerns and attitudes of communities. We'd all like to see the pharmacy dispensary model just like with other prescribed medications, but the reality is that barring federal action, this is not going to happen. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, and I look forward to any questions that senators might have.
Thank you, Representative Colton. Have any questions? There don't seem to be any questions at this point. Thank you both for being here. I know you got to get back to session, so I'm sure we'll be in touch between now and the next time we get together. Thanks for taking the time.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to apologize in advance if I mispronounce anyone's name. Sergeant Amy Denner from the Michigan State Police is going to speak. I believe you're here. Is that you in the back? Hi, Sergeant. How are you today?
I'm very good, sir. Thank you.
Good.
I will be very brief.
Well, it's my understanding, based on the card here, that you need a few minutes, but you are going to oppose the bill as written. And did you do that with the House, in the House as well?
That's correct, sir.
Okay.
And to just give you a very quick background on that, we had the opportunity on the House side to work as a work group with the ACLU, patient advocates, criminal defense attorneys, and a couple of other stakeholders. Unfortunately, sorry, my legs are a little long for the table here. Unfortunately,
Never
just
had
with
that problem.
It's an occupational hazard for me. So, unfortunately, the bill moved a little quicker than we anticipated. So there were some things on the House side that are still left undone that would create, I think, unintended consequences for both law enforcement and patients as far as clarity of quantity, labeling, things like that I've brought up with both of the sponsors' offices. Very quickly, I'm just going to touch on a couple of things from our perspective that we have gotten several questions on since December when this came out of the House. And before I start that, most notably, I know the issue at hand here is creating an alternate form of medical marijuana for patients. We have no argument against that. I understand that current law does not allow for that. Whatever form it takes, I think ultimately is a matter of public policy. We just have to be sure that it is clear for enforcement purposes and that patients are clear in what the regulations are as well. So some of the proposed changes in both 4271 and 5104, currently a qualifying patient can have 2.5 ounces of usable marijuana. And one of our hang-up points was defining what usable marijuana is. I know that was a problem in the Carruthers decision. They can also have 12 plants and one of the following based off of the equivalency standards that have been established in these two bills. In addition, they can also have 2.5 pounds of a solid food form or a total of 144 fluid ounces in liquid form or another 17.5 grams held in a gaseous form. This would effectively double the amount of medical marijuana that a patient can currently have. However, in looking at some other states, I believe it was Washington State was a model that was used. But in many of the conversations or questions that we had from our office, that was one of the ones that came up that people didn't realize what the current language was doing. In the other question that we had was, is it possible for forensic labs to essentially separate the inert ingredients? For instance, if someone submitted a tray of brownies that had THC in them to our lab, we have no way forensically to test for the presence of THC and separate that from the inert ingredients like your eggs, your flour. So if you submit 2 pounds of brownies, you have 2 pounds of marijuana under the Controlled Substance Act, which was part of the Carruthers decision and which brought us, I think, to our current state here in trying to define what someone can have and what they can't, and in making that clear for them, law enforcement and patients. One of the other issues that we run into from a public safety perspective is the lack of THC standardization, meaning if THC is suspended in a liquid form, in a 2-liter bottle, for instance, which is 72 fluid ounces, we have no way to determine how much of that liquid is THC or how strong the potency is. Our concern, obviously, is that if people are going to use it for a medical purpose, that it's done safely. However, we have no way in law enforcement to determine what that quantity is. And potency is across the board. It doesn't matter whether it's in food form, it's in liquid form, or gas form. There's no forensic way for us to determine that. Several of the other issues that have come up are primarily a result of Colorado and Washington legalizing it, and some of the problems that we've seen in talking with law enforcement out there. Most notably is that these businesses have to deal in cash transactions. Due to anti-money laundering statutes, banks can't take cards, can't house money, can't take deposits from these entities that are doing business as medical marijuana dispensaries. Department of Justice issued a memo in mid-February of this year outlining 8 criteria that were really not clear for banks as to kind of, in a sense, acquiescing that banks could take this money. However, any of the reputable banks that you talk to are still very leery of doing it. And it creates a couple of problems. One, if you look at our secure cities, Detroit, Saginaw, Flint, if you put dispensaries in some of those cities in areas perhaps that may not be safe, you may be putting citizens at risk with entities that are using cash only and are selling a Schedule I controlled substance, significant quantities of cash, which would be a bullseye for any ne'er-do-weller who's looking to take advantage of the system. The other thing to keep in mind is these entities can't be insured either. They would have to be a legitimate business for the purposes of insurance. And in talking to DFIS, they believe this falls outside the criteria of a legitimate business. So that's essentially it, sir. And I know I kind of spun over that very quickly, but these are just some of the highlights of the questions that we get with the state police and what our take is, and some of the primary issues that we think could impact public safety with this that we think would need to be worked out. I'm not saying that they can't be, but I know we got in a rush to get this out of the House. I would like to take a little time and work through some of these issues on this side of it before we go forward. A couple of them absolutely need to be addressed, if nothing else, for clarity for both law enforcement and patients. But with that, I'm happy to take your questions.
You believe there are workable solutions, they just haven't been put on the table yet?
I think so, sir. Again, we were kind of in a rush coming out of the House in December there, and I know we had some very good, positive conversations as to standards that would be clearer for everyone. I just don't think we got to that point before it left the House.
And the state police have always been cooperative in working with solutions, and all you would be willing to be helpful in if a work group or something like that came together?
Absolutely.
Thank you very much. Do you have any questions? Gentlemen? Thank you, Sergeant.
Thank you, sir.
Appreciate you taking the time to be here today. The next card that I have is from Eric Pessel. Did I pronounce that correctly? I hope so. Eric is with the Michigan Association of Local Environmental, is that right? Health Administration? I've been around here a long time with a lot of acronyms. That might be the longest one that I've heard.
It is long, sir.
And you are opposing the bill, and we'll explain why.
Yes.
Okay. Thanks, Eric. It's nice of you to be here today.
Thank you. Good afternoon.
Sorry? Wait. Just want to hit that button so that the blue light comes on.
Sorry.
It's all right.
Good afternoon. My name is Eric Pessel. I'm currently the Director of Environmental Health for the Kent County Health Department, and I'm the Chair of the Michigan Association of Local Environmental Health Administrators Legislative Committee representing the 45 local health departments in Michigan. And I would like to thank the Chairman Chairman Richardville and the committee members for this opportunity to make some brief remarks regarding House Bill 4271, a new act that provides for state and local regulation of marijuana provisioning centers. MELF, Michigan Association of Local Public Health, and MLEHA have completed an analysis of House Bill 4271 and is currently strongly opposed to this proposed legislation. Our concerns stem primarily from Section 12 of the bill. They are as follows. The bill does not make edible marijuana dispensaries subject to the Michigan Food Law or the Michigan Modified Food Code. Rather, it relies on a set of haphazard rules to ensure food safety. It is our position that the only way to ensure food safety in a food establishment is to make said establishment subject to all the requirements of the Food Law and the Food Code, as is currently done for all the food establishments in the state of Michigan. This would include, but not be limited to, annual licensure by the Michigan Department of Agricultural and Rural Development, otherwise known as MDARD, with all the rights and responsibilities associated with licensure, submission of plans to and approval of plans by the applicable public health jurisdiction before beginning construction of a new facility, a pre-opening inspection by the applicable public health jurisdiction before the facility can begin selling food to the public, on-site inspections by the applicable public health jurisdiction at least twice per year. This is where this isn't local control. This is required in the bill as it's currently written. As written, the bill delegates responsibility of inspections to be conducted once per year using inadequate food safety rules to local public health departments. Current licensed facilities, such as those implicitly proposed in the bill, like bakeries, are currently required to be inspected twice per year by MDARD. The bill, therefore, both creates a double standard and takes the inspection authority away from the entity with the most expertise, MDARD. As it currently stands, there is to be no state appropriation to local health departments for services required to be performed by House Bill 4271. Both MELF and MLEHA strongly oppose this action and believes this to be an unfunded mandate and a violation of the Headley Amendment to the state constitution. In closing, I would like to say that some have said that the local health department's ability to charge a fee is good enough to mandate without funding. Representative Colton should know better than most. As the past chair of the Board of Health of his health department, he's had to pass local fees. It's a very, very difficult process, and it's not the same throughout the entire state. Again, I would like to thank the chairman and the committee members for this opportunity to speak on behalf of the 45 local health departments and the essential local public health services. Any questions?
Thank you, Eric. Let me see. Are there any questions? No? No, thank you for taking the time to be here. Is it safe to say that your top concern is the safety of the foods that are being described in the bills?
Yeah, the regulation of the food.
Okay.
Yeah, if we're going to call it a food, then we need to
You want
regulate
to
it
be
as a food.
apples to apples, pardon the pun. Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Thank you very much. Now we've got a number of people that have turned in cards that would like to speak on behalf of an organization, and some of them on behalf of themselves. We're going to start with Robin Schneider from the National Patients' Rights Association from Hazlet, Michigan. She is in support of the bill and speaking for the organization, I assume. Is that correct? Very good. Well, welcome to the committee today, Robin.
Thank you very much. I'm the legislative chairwoman of the National Patients' Rights Association. We are a not-for-profit organization that advocates for patients' caregivers and the many businesses that serve them. Thank you for this opportunity to discuss the importance of safe access and smoking alternative medical marijuana. I just want to start by saying we've worked on this for over 2 years now, so this has been a long process, and we are grateful to finally be here in front of you today. I want to clarify, we are not proposing to bring back the old dispensaries like we had before. What we're asking you to do is to allow regulated control and distribution of medical marijuana through locally licensed provisioning centers. We are here asking for state-sanctioned and fully legal access to regulated medical marijuana. We need our medicine to be tested and screened for safety. We need to be protected when we use non-smoking forms of medical marijuana. And most importantly, we don't want to have to worry about police encounters or raids when we're just trying to get our medication and go home. We should be working with our law enforcement transparently rather than hiding from them. And right now we have to do that because the law is gray. 21 states, including Washington, D.C., have medical marijuana programs. Of those, 18 allow smoking alternative products, and 14 of them allow regulated access to the drug through licensed commercial facilities, 14. By empowering local governments to license provisioning centers, we can protect both patients and communities simultaneously. We protect patients by providing them with safe locations to pick up their medication and testing to make sure that medicine is safe and screened before they consume it. We can protect children with regulations such as warning labels, tracking labels. We can cut back on redistribution by limiting the amount of marijuana that can be sold to each patient. There were 2 times when medical marijuana helped me improve my quality of life personally. The first time was right after the law passed. I used medical marijuana and very successfully weaned myself off of Vicodin and Flexerol that I had been taking about 10 years. I had a severe spinal cord injury when I was 19. I spent a year in a wheelchair, another 6 months in Lofstrand crutches, and then I was dependent on pain pills. I then had 4 children. I had difficulty just getting out of bed to take care of them in the morning because the pharmaceutical drugs were wearing on me so greatly. So I've been free from all of those pain pills almost 5 years, and I'm so grateful for that. The second time was on September 7th, 2013, of just this last year. I had a blockage in the left middle cortex of my brain, a stroke. And it left me when I woke up. I had lost mobility of the entire right side of my body. I had cognitive damage. I had auditory problems. And just that same week, a study was published from a university in Spain showing that medical marijuana in certain, like tincture and capsule forms, could serve as a neuroprotectant. So I started that immediately, a very specific strain of medical marijuana. And my recovery was lightning fast, to the point that I've almost made a complete recovery in less than 6 months. And from a stroke of that severity, I still have a little bit of cognitive damage, and I still have numbness in my right hand and neuropathy in my right hand. But other than that, I'm doing really well. So I do want to be able to use the topical oil on my hand for my neuropathy and be protected for doing that. And right now I'm not protected for that, and I think that I should be. I'm very grateful for this medicine, but I believe that we can and should do better. I think that we should look at other states that are distributing medical marijuana very similarly to what House Bill 4271 will allow. And I think that we should take their lead and work to protect patients here. And if you have any questions in particular about the bill, I'd be happy to answer them for you.
Thank you. Not so much about the bill, but the testimony. You talked about having to hide, I think was a word to use, from law enforcement. Did you? I don't know if you were here, but the Michigan State Police testified that they would be willing to work toward clarifying some things and some solutions. You'd be welcome to being a part of something like that, or at least. Oh,
we have, worked with them, and we appreciate them very much, and absolutely want to continue working through any concerns that they may have. We already put some things into the bill like weight limits, labeling guidelines, things to make it roadside easier for them. So we've already given them several things that they asked for, and we're absolutely willing to do that more. When I say hiding, I mean over the last 4 or 5 years since the provisioning centers started popping up, For people who don't have a caregiver, you have two choices. You can, if you don't have that caregiver, you can grow your own. You can go try to find it, somewhere, or you can go to a provisioning center. But we don't have a second alternative of legal access. So if we go into these centers, or we go, we don't know if we're going into a legal or an illegal situation until these places are licensed. And so we have to worry about police encounters while we're trying to acquire our medicine.
Understand.
So, but we do want to work with them to move forward.
Okay. Thank you, Robin. There are no
Thank you.
further questions, right? I think it was inadvertent, but I believe there's a light switch back there that maybe somebody leaned against.
Are we any other questions or?
I don't think there's any more. Thank you very much
you.
for taking the time and
Thank
for
you.
giving the testimony. It just became darker out there, right? There's that's okay. There.
It's just you.
It's just me. Yeah. I've been in the dark for a long time. Look, did you do that? Nice job, Bruce. Pete, that was you. Okay, all right. Okay. Andrew Driver from the National Patients' Rights Association. I don't know. Andrew, are you here? Is Andrew Driver here? Oh, good.
Hi.
Hi. Can you get that microphone okay? Or yeah. The blue light's on, and then put it. You got to get it
There you go.
relatively close to your face. Very good.
Yeah.
And now, are you associated with the National Patients' Rights Association? Are you associated with the same organization?
Same organization as Robin, yeah, and I will speak somewhat about that, but I'd also, like to come speak as a patient.
Okay, great. Go right ahead.
Great, thank you. So, first off, my name is Andrew Driver. Like I just said, I'm a member of the National Patients' Rights Association. I am also an activist, and most important, I'm a patient. Again, thank you for taking the time to hear me, to hear everybody that finds this passionate on both sides of the bill. Medical marijuana first came to me after an accident I was involved in about 12 years ago, and there was a synthetic form of it that was prescribed to me at Mayo Clinic to combat both the side effects of prescription drugs and to help with pain and eating, mostly from those prescription drugs. So that was the first introductions I had, and I've since worked with many doctors from then to decide what types of medical marijuana work for me. They help with leg spasms. Again, they help with eating and a variety of different things. So I know firsthand that medical marijuana can work, and that's why I'm so passionate about it, because I believe it's a less invasive form of medicine than a lot of them out there. So for me, I know it works, and my passion is to help others. So the way the law is currently written right now, it's a good law, and it helps a lot of people, but we can do a lot better. Some of the things that I find problematic are access to caregivers' homes. There's very few homes that are wheelchair accessible, and there's even few that are caregivers and wheelchair accessible. Sure, they can come to my home, but sometimes you don't want that. And just being able to have the businesses operate under the law of the Americans with Disability Act, I would be able to get in and out of the locations easily. There's also a struggle for finding growers that I think this bill will really help. People like me, or people in all walks of life, necessarily don't know who to go to and how to find the medicine that can truly help them. These places provide meeting locations just as much as they do anything else, information, learning, and I believe that's very important. There's many struggles that the growers in this industry face too, from power outages to bugs and pests, any other range of issues that these stores will help act as central clearinghouses and, places where if a grower has a crop failure, the grower can also use these places to help their patients. So I think that's very important to have a marketplace for these products, and I think it's going to help divert any overages to other caregivers, to other patients, versus to the black market or other places. You know, I've been working on this bill for a long time with the NPRA and personally, and it's been quite the process. It's been very eye-opening to me. Everybody wants this passed that I've worked with, and even the people that spoke today that have some issues. You know, I hope we can work together, and I hope we can quickly resolve their issues and move forward with this, because I think this is a very, very, very important bill that needs to move quick. So, thanks again, everybody, for taking the time to hear me.
Thank you, and I think did you come from Gaylord?
Yes, I did.
Well, thank you for taking the time to drive all the way from Gaylord.
My pleasure, my pleasure.
Gentlemen?
Questions?
All right, thanks again.
Thank you.
Let me see here. I have John Targowski, an attorney representing himself. Did I get that correctly?
Correct.
The name and everything?
Yes.
Pretty
Great
good,
job.
Huh? Yeah, thanks.
Thank you for letting me speak. I've been a criminal defense attorney and medical marijuana attorney both in California, where I'm licensed to practice since 2003, and in this state since 2007. I'm also a patient, a medical marijuana patient. I've suffered a spinal cord injury and use marijuana to treat both post-traumatic stress as well as muscle spasticity. This is really, in my opinion, about dignity, the dignity for the patients that throughout 2009 and throughout 2010 had some legitimate safe access to marijuana. Our appellate courts have narrowly interpreted the Michigan Medical Marijuana Act to the point where provisioning centers became unlawful, to the point where anybody with one microscopic level of marijuana over their limits became basically a criminal defendant. And that was not really what we voted for. And I think the Senate bill that you guys are thinking about really addresses putting back what we thought about when we voted for this in 2008.
John, let me interrupt for
Sure.
just a second. You just referenced a Senate bill that we're considering. I just wanted for clarification, you're not talking about the one that we passed.
No.
You're talking about these two House bills.
Correct.
Okay.
I was mistaken.
Just for the record, I wanted to be right.
Sure.
Sorry about the interruption.
One thing that I like about the House bill, about the provisioning center House bill, is that it creates local options. And that's important because in California in 2002, I believe, the state legislature there passed the equivalent dispensary language. And it's taken about 10 years in the California appellate courts for them to figure out whether or not a municipality could be sued to force the opening of a medical marijuana dispensary in their city. And this thing nips that problem in the bud. It makes it painfully obvious to communities that don't want a provisioning center that nobody can take them to court and force them under the state law to open one up. There's a lot of discussion about whether or not certain amounts are appropriate, or whether or not some regulation over food should be appropriate. I'm not really here to speak about that. It's basically about dignity. It's about letting us be safe and letting us not feel like we have to be in the closet, not feel like we're subject to arrest and prosecution. And let me give you an example of that. I believe our state appellate courts don't actually believe medical marijuana in any form is legal under state law. I believe they consider it an immunity from arrest and prosecution. And if you look at the content, the first page of your bill analysis, it indicates that the bill would provide that criminal, civil, and other sanctions would not apply. That doesn't mean that it's going to be legal. That means that those sanctions would not apply. And that's just sort of one example of how. Excuse me? Yeah. I know that a lot of the activists, and I'm certainly an activist in some capacity, but I believe a lawyer first, talk about that medical marijuana is legal. I believe that under the McQueen decision, that's probably debatable between defense attorneys and prosecutors, but my position is that the appellate courts have created this as an immunity. There also is an affirmative defense that occurs in court once somebody is outside of that immunity. That's Section 8 of the law. And the reason that I'm bringing this up is because this is one example of how at every opportunity prosecutors, police have taken stances that have basically narrowly interpreted every provision of the Act that they could have. There was a period of time in 2009 and 10 for about 18 months before the decision was overruled by the Supreme Court, where somebody basically had no affirmative defense to marijuana if they were outside the provisioning, the Section 4 immunity limits, and clear misapplication of how the affirmative defense differs from the immunity provision in Section 4. What this bill does specifically is put within the immunity provision that currently applies to possession and to cultivation of marijuana the right to expand that into an actual provisioning center with provisioning center agents, with the right to have as a source of the marijuana an existing gray market for the overages that already exist. As it currently stands, somebody can grow up to 72 plants of marijuana and they can have up to 15 ounces, and a lot of times that may be more than what can be used for themselves and 5 people. And this bill allows those people to take what they don't use for themselves and their registered network patients and put them in a distribution network that puts that marijuana safely to patients' hands. What currently can happen now is those people can be over, and they can, some of them, certainly the ones that I've represented in various capacities, have made some poor decisions with what they do with that marijuana. So this, I don't want to say legalizes, but this immunizes that marketplace. And that's a positive step. I'd like to see something maybe a little bit better after this, but certainly this is something where we don't have to make good the enemy of perfect. And I take any questions if you guys have.
Thank you, John. Are there any questions?
Thanks.
Thank you. Where did you come from?
California.
Like in general, I mean like today.
Kalamazoo.
Oh, okay.
But I was on a flight from California yesterday to testify here.
So you work back and forth California?
Currently.
Thank you. Thanks for taking the time to be here. Ray Faust, Mayor of Montrose, representing the small cities of Genesee County. Did I get that right?
Correct.
Hi, Mr. Mayor. How are you?
Yeah. Good afternoon.
Nice of you to take the time to come from Genesee today.
Well, it's nice of you guys to take the time to listen to what we've got going on out here. Well, this is not for me. This is about my niece. I wanted to give a little testimony about her. She came down with cancer. She had it all through her body. They were giving her all kinds of treatments. She was losing weight to the point where they were worried about she was going to die from malnutrition rather than the cancer. She was throwing up blood and everything else. They give her the synthetic medical marijuana to take. She threw that up. She was deathly against marijuana, smoking and using it in any way, shape, or form because of her faith. A lot of people told her, said, well, it's working for other people, try it. Bullheaded as me, said she will not take it. Well, I took her down, I found a clinic down in Southfield that was actually doctors from California that were already prescribing the drug and using it. So I took her down there to the clinic. We spent a day down there, took her through different training programs and seminars. 3 different doctors looked at her and said this would be an alternative, not smoking it, but taking capsules. And he gave her 5 capsules when we left that day. Asked her to take one before she left the clinic. Receptionist there gave her a glass of water, and she took one of these pills. Before we got to Wixom, she says, Uncle Ray, let's pull into Wendy's. I'm hungry. Just that quick. And she took the medical marijuana. She got off the other stuff. She was still taking her chemo. And she kept going to the doctor, and she asked the doctor, is this going to cure me? And he says, no, I can keep you alive for about 3 years. Well, she'd take 6 months of treatment, 6 weeks of treatment, excuse me, and then she'd be off for 6 weeks. Well, by the time she would start feeling better again, it was time to go back in for more chemo. And she said, I want a better quality of life to spend with my husband. She'd only been married 2 years. A little more quality of life to spend with him my last time I have here, so she stopped the chemo. She stayed on the capsules and she lived for a year. A quality life. And I'm here to testify to her today, not for myself, but for her. And for our community. Our community, the entire community that we have out there, the city of Montrose, have experienced the same type of thing in their family. And that's why we allowed a provision center to come into town. The guy that came into town, very professional about it. We went to the chief of police. We talked to him about it. They've got it set up. The books are open all the time. They can walk in anytime they want to. They verify that people have their card, just same as a bartender would, to make sure that you're of legal age. And the police department has even stood in there and apprehended people they had warrants on from standing in their building. And I call it a safe transfer center. I don't see why anybody would have to go to some low-life place to get a medicine. And what I had to do, I took a look at it, and sure, you could grow it, but it takes you about 6 months to get it started to grow. And if you need the medicine, you need it now. And you need somebody that can provide it for you. Every month I would drive to Southfield, a 250-mile round trip to pick up the medicine because I couldn't do it. I don't have the knowledge. I don't have the purity. I don't know if it's safe. But buying from someone that tests it and everything, I know it's safe. And that's what we need, is a safe drug. And it is a drug. You know, make no mistake about it, it is a drug. And like I've heard a few other people say, socially, there are people out there going to be doing it. They've been doing it since the 60s. You know, they're going to find a way to do it. They're going to bring it in from Canada. They're going to bring it in from Mexico. I don't care about those people. I care about the people that really need it for medicine. And so does the small cities. We want to be able to regulate it so we can take the plans that we put together 5 years ago, alter them to fit what the state has brought together so we can have some control within our communities. Now, we don't want 10 distributors down through town. We don't want 15 or 20. We don't want to be known as the marijuana capital or whatever. We want people to be able to get their medicine, that's all.
That would be an interesting Pure Michigan ad, I think.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mayor Faust.
Do you have any questions for me?
I don't, no. But I think the people of Montrose are well represented. You have a nice way of testifying. I appreciate you taking the time to do that.
Thank you, sir.
Mm-hmm. R. Anthony Ryan from an organization called LEAP, L-E-A-P. Did I get that correct?
Yes, sir.
I'm guessing that stands for something.
Yes, it does.
And you're in support of the bill. And did you come from Arizona to be here today?
I did, sir.
Well, it's nice of you to take that time to come all the way from Arizona.
I go by Tony. My name is Tony Ryan. I'm a retired Denver police officer. I served in the city of Denver, Colorado for 36 years, the last 26 in charge of street officers. And I'm here to speak in favor of these bills, and I'm here to applaud what has been accomplished by the House in setting up bills that provide for a lot of regulation and control of the distribution of marijuana to patients, because that's really what it's about. Let me get right down to it. I'm here to ask you, of course, to support these bills in the Senate and to pass them, because by doing so, you're allowing people who need this stuff as medication to get medication when other medications that they've been given, sometimes dozens at a time, have not worked for them, whereas we have ample cases throughout the country that show that this works for people when other things don't. And to regulate and control that, which is exactly what a legislative body is supposed to do, is to pass laws that allow for regulation and control so that you can actually punish people who are trying to work outside of those regulations and controls. By the way, LEAP stands for Law Enforcement Against Prohibition. That is a group of police officers, judges, and prosecutors who, for long and short of it, have been there, seen that, done that, and realize that our current system regarding how we look at drugs, it doesn't work and actually causes more problems than it seeks to reduce. And so certainly we're in favor of medical marijuana and allowing people who need it, as I said, to have it. What happens here is, first of all, a number of things can happen if you proceed with these bills and allow them to become law in this state. You have a way to regulate and control and a way to do something about people who want to go outside of the law. Whereas opposed to our current system, you can only put people in jail and that's it. You can't do anything else except that. It's also safer for children. People always ask, what about the children? There isn't a medical marijuana law in the country that allows for children, except as patients, to be nowhere near it. Even when it's been legalized in Colorado and in Washington, it's only for 21 and over, not for children. So it's still illegal for children, and that's regulation and control, the long and short of it. So as I said before, we are all for regulation and control. We're also for all of the things that have been mentioned by previous people, the labeling, the oversight, the licensing. And as the sergeant from your state police said, they have some confusion a little bit. But I was heartened to hear that what they were saying is we don't want to go out and go against this because we still want to arrest everybody in the world for marijuana, but that they would just like a little more direction so they know for sure what it is that they need to enforce. And again, we're going back to talking about regulation and control, so that they know exactly who can do what with medical marijuana, and then they can go after the people who try to slip around what the legislature has set up to help people who need this as medication. So I applaud that, and thank you for your time.
Thank you, Tony. Do we have any questions? Okay, appreciate it. Thank you. Wait, you served in law enforcement in what capacity? Or did you not?
I was basically a street officer.
Oh, you were?
30 of my 36 years.
Okay.
26 in charge of other officers.
Very good. Thank you. Thanks for your service, too. Okay, I've got a number of people here that have filled out cards, and for the record, we're going to read in that Megan Swain from the Michigan Association for Local Public Health is in opposition of the bill but does not wish to speak. Terry Tarver from the Kalamazoo Area Compassion Club does not wish to speak and is supporting bill, well, it says House Bill 4271. Bo Bodkin from the Michigan Sheriff's Association, not wishing to speak and opposing the bills. Ben, I'm sorry, I read that wrong. Charles Smith from the Kalamazoo Area Compassion Club, also supporting the bills. And Mia McNeil, Property Management Association of Michigan, is neutral on the bills and doesn't wish to speak. Did I get those right for the record? Okay. And these are the cards that I have for people that do wish to speak. And are they all in support of the bill, or are they just mixed up? Okay, there's some of both. We're going to start with those supporting the bills and then go to those opposed, okay? Guy Case, representing himself. Hello, Mr. Case. Now, it looks like it says JD afterwards. Does that mean that you are an attorney?
Can't stand lawyers.
Well,
just kidding.
Now, you just had one testify a minute ago, and he did a nice job. He's on your side.
Just
Maybe
kidding.
some of them. Let's just say some
Just
of them,
kidding,
okay?
just kidding.
All right, Guy, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Chairman and Senators of the committee, I'm a recent graduate of Thomas M. Cooley Law School, a citizen of the state of Michigan, a businessman, a former employee of the Federal Medical Marijuana Research Facility in Oxford, Mississippi, and a medical marijuana patient. I'd like to express my gratitude to Senator Richardville and the entire Michigan State Senate Government Operations Committee for conducting this hearing. Mr. Chairman, you could have easily sat on the bill, but you made the right decision by allowing this hearing, and for this you should be commended.
Thank you.
Ultimately, it appears that dispensaries in Michigan are probably a foregone conclusion. In most of the other medical marijuana states, dispensaries or provisioning centers are already operating under similar guidance as the Michigan House Bill 4271 proposes. The citizens of these other states are already afforded the public safety guaranteed by official state recognition of dispensaries. Both the patients and the police are probably better off because of state regulation of these dispensaries. To pass the buck to another crop of legislators by putting off 4271's passage would only be harming our citizens, literally. Michigan House Bill 4271 is extensive and provides the safeguards needed to regulate the sale and distribution of medical marijuana. As the committee is likely well aware, other states are seeing their tax revenues increase as a result of tourism booms. Let's not let Michigan miss out on what other states are benefiting from. During tough economic times, our residents would benefit, and so would our state coffers. After all, the Michigan Medical Marijuana Act already provides for reciprocity for visiting patients. Why not provide them dispensaries, as is apparent in the spirit of the Michigan Medical Marijuana Act as it was passed? I support House Bill 4271 in its current form, but I would urge the committee to make sure sections in the bill, particularly Section 5, allow for the safe passage of licensed medical marijuana dispensary agents through towns that do not allow dispensaries. The free flow of medicine throughout the whole state of Michigan is needed to facilitate safe access for all patients. Thank you for your time and for your support of 4271. The citizens support it. Thank you.
Sorry. Thank you very much for taking the time to be here. Can I ask you a question? This research center, is that a university? Is it privately funded? It's in Oxford, Mississippi?
It's federally funded. There's only one in the nation.
Really?
And
what would it take for somebody to come down and visit that?
A phone call.
Would I make that phone call, or would you make that phone call?
I mean, I could make it on behalf of you.
That would be great. And can we talk before you go? Do you have your contact information on the card?
I do.
Okay, I will contact you. I'd be very interested in finding out more.
Love to talk to you. Thank you. Thank you, Committee.
Charles Ream, Executive Director of the Safer Michigan Coalition from Ann Arbor. Welcome. It's nice to see you again. I visited your classroom years ago, and you were the only person ever in the history, and I'm the longest-serving legislator, I think, in Michigan. Tied. Okay, you know. This first time, and I bet you haven't seen this either, he requested 2 minutes and 25 seconds to say that. I'm impressed.
In Ann Arbor, we won at 74.28%.
I don't doubt that. Welcome back.
Thank you, sir, very much. My name is Chuck Ream of Ann Arbor, Executive Director of the Safer Michigan Coalition, a 33-year kindergarten teacher, 5-term township trustee. Our group ran nearly all of the local cannabis law reform, electoral campaigns in Michigan, which are always landslide victories. And we have a democracy, I think. Thank you for this hearing. Long ago, Representative Richardville kindly visited my kindergarten in Monroe. I have spent my entire life with children and never would be involved in anything that could harm children. The recent scare about cannabis damaging teenagers' brains is only the new chapter of reefer madness. Authoritative studies of lifetime marijuana-only users, like me, show no lasting cognitive damage, and a new statistical analysis of the teen brain data by Rogeberg, published by the National Academy of Sciences, shows that the teen brain results from New Zealand could have come from socioeconomic variables, not pot. A huge majority of Michiganders want medical marijuana safely available, especially for the patients who are too sick to grow it. Good-hearted, law-abiding people are patients, caregivers, and dispensary owners. I used to run a dispensary. I hope to again when I have a little more legal protection. The main reason that Ann Arbor dispensaries have no problems whatsoever is that cannabis is so safe. The safest therapeutically active substance known to man, said DEA federal judge Francis Young. Also, dispensaries have built up great expertise about providing instructions. We have had medical marijuana, cannabis, zoning, and licensing ordinances for years in Ann Arbor. We have had 10 dispensaries operating for years. These dispensaries diminish suffering and provide good economic activity with lots of jobs. Ann Arbor has not gone to hell. It flourishes. I invite you to tour a fine provisioning center in Ann Arbor. I appeal and pray and beg you for this herbal medicine to be made available. like the voters want it to be, fully under the control of each individual town, like Ann Arbor. To qualified Michigan patients who don't live in Washtenaw County, they deserve equal treatment. Thank you. Watch CNN tonight at 10.
Thank you, Chuck. The next person is Sally Haynes, representing herself, also from Ann Arbor. I can't help but note that you're sitting next to each other. He asked for 2 minutes, 25 seconds. You asked for 2 minutes and 30 seconds. I'm just assuming you'd put yours in first and he wanted to beat it by 5 seconds or something. I don't know, but welcome.
We live at the same address.
I didn't notice that part, but I'm starting to pick up on something. Okay, you made me blush. Nobody's done that in a long time either. Go right ahead.
Good afternoon. My name is Sally Haynes. I'm a retired University of Michigan librarian and a registered medical marijuana patient from Ann Arbor. I have never smoked anything, and I can't handle being high. I'm grateful that you are considering lifting restrictions on the most medicinal plant in the world. I have personally benefited from oil extracts, salves, gels, edibles, and raw cannabis juice with no ill side effects. The first time I experienced medical marijuana was when I had a vascular ulcer. I was told by my doctor that there was no cure except rest and elevation. Frightened because each day the hole in my leg got larger, my husband made a poultice of cannabis, leaves, and hemp oil and packed a new poultice into the wound every night. Each day the hole in my leg got smaller. After 5 days, it was closed. My vascular specialist said it normally takes 3 months to 5 years to heal a vascular ulcer. Is vascular ulcer a qualifying condition? No, it's not. But growers and creators of topical salves and oils made from extracts, as well as those providing the bud for smoking and leaves for edibles, poultices, and juice, are just learning from their patients what strains and delivery systems work best for varying conditions. I'd had a total knee replacement, but normal range of motion was not achieved after 2 years of physical therapy and prescribed exercises 3 hours a day, 5 times a week. I use cannabis butter cookies at night to not wake up in arthritic pain. But I had not found anything that relieved the stiffness of my connective tissues and joints that impede my motion during the day. Last September, I could not mount or dismount a bike, which I had been able to do previously. I couldn't walk downstairs normally. Then my husband acquired low THC, high CBD capsules available at our favorite dispensary in Ann Arbor. In 3 days, I could safely mount and dismount my bike, and I rode the Calhaven Trail for 4 hours. And I could begin to go downstairs normally. Today I use raw cannabis juice instead of extracted oil and capsules because there's absolutely no high involved in raw cannabis juice. Cannabis has to be heated. When you extract the oil, it is heated, so there is a little bit of THC, and I just can't tolerate it. But I've found wonderful help with the juice. Many Michiganders suffer from arthritis. The AMA was not consulted and was outraged when tincture of cannabis was banned for medical use. Millions of older people with arthritis and other chronic conditions need relief from inflammation, and they don't have to smoke, and they don't have to get high. And I guess just to add a little objective evidence to a subjective presentation, if you'd seen my knuckles for the last 25 years and you see them now, there's no swelling. And I think this is indicative of what's happened to my entire body and giving me so much more range of motion and energy. Thank you for listening to me.
Thank you. Belinda Phillips came from Bloomfield Hills to be here today, and she's in support of the bill. Is Belinda here? Hi. It says you're representing your daughter. I'm assuming this is your daughter with you? My daughter. Oh, good. Could you come up and introduce her, please? Sure. Thanks.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak to you today. I appreciate it very much. This is my daughter, Marley. She is 20 years old.
Hi, Marley.
Marley, can you say hi?
Yeah.
Can you blow kisses? Thank you.
Well, nobody's done that to me for a long, long time.
I'm an attorney. Coincidentally, I do some contract work for
There's a guy in here that doesn't like you.
Yeah, he just graduated Cooley.
Yeah, I know.
Coincidentally, I do some contract work for the Michigan Court of Appeals, so it's kind of interesting that I'm here. It's also interesting that I'm here because I've never really understood marijuana, never taken the time. I just thought it was for people who like to get high. In fact, one of the reasons that Marley's father and I are no longer together is because he got high all the time. So here I am in favor of this bill, and it's a surprise to me. But my daughter, Marley, was born with a genetic condition called tuberous sclerosis. It causes daily uncontrolled seizures and tumor growth in her organs. She's had 14 brain surgeries to try and stop her seizures. She lost a kidney because the tumor got out of control, took over her kidney. She's been on every medication that's available in this world. I've taken her to the best doctors, not only in this country, but anywhere in the world. 2 years ago, the doctor, we were talking about her seizures, didn't have very good control. He suggested a hemispherectomy, cutting out the rest of the left side of her brain. And I looked at him and I said, why would we do that when the other ones didn't work? And we know she'll have a deficit. He said, I don't have anything else to offer you. So the next 3 times we went back to see him. He's out of state. We would go back every 6 months, and he would come up with the same recommendation. So finally I said to him, you need to stop telling me that. We're not doing it. It's not what she would want. I'm not going to cause any further deficits for her. I want to try medical marijuana. Coincidentally, the people from Colorado had just been to his institution. He said, I'm completely on board, 100% whatever you need. Of course, he doesn't live in this state. So Marley was going to have some other type of surgery and unrelated to any of this. And the doctor, when I told him our plight, said, I'll write her card. Immediately wrote her card. It came 3 weeks later, and we started on marijuana. I didn't know where to get it. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know how to give it to her. She can't smoke it. I don't want her to smoke it. Luckily, I reached out to the community, and someone took me under their wing and taught me where to get it and how to give it to her and how to give it to her in an extract form. One day I was driving down the street with the extract in the trunk of my car, and there's my daughter's in the back seat. I'm her guardian, and there's a police car next to me, and what am I going to do if he pulls me over and he smells the fumes from the marijuana in my car? It puts me in a really precarious situation. Not only I could lose my career, I could end up in jail, and then she doesn't have anyone to take care of her. I'm her sole caregiver. So it really puts us in a precarious situation. What has it done for her? She's had about a 90% reduction in the number of seizures that she has. She's had a 90% reduction in the intensity and the duration of the seizures. So it's been dramatic. She cognitively is so much more connected. And she's been going to speech therapy for most of her life. The speech therapist had put away anything in terms of teaching her how to talk. And we were just using a communication board. She about a month ago, she brought out the things to teach her how to talk, and Marley's actually now saying words that have 2 syllables, which is a huge thing for a child who didn't talk before. So I'm excited. She's going to have her MRIs in a month. I'm excited to see what those are going to show in terms of the tumor growth, because she still has tumors in her organs. So hopefully that will help, because what the doctors are giving her is a chemotherapy pill that's very, very toxic to her. So it's been a dramatic change for us. I can't wait to see what her EEG looks like. We're going in a month also. So for us, it's dramatic. The bills, in terms of all the specifics of it, you know, I leave that to you. All I'm here is to impress upon you the urgency. We don't have time to wait to get something where we can not be scared that we're going to lose our children, lose our jobs, be thrown in jail. And we don't have time to wait to be able to find safe places to get this medication for our kids. It's been dramatic. And her doctor called me about 2 weeks ago asking me how to dose it and how do I do it, and asked for a lot of specifics, and now is sending me people from all over the country so that I can share with them what our experience has been. It's been dramatic. So thank you very much. I appreciate it. Really appreciate your time, and I'm always available to answer any questions.
Are there any questions now?
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Marley?
Marley.
I have a name here, Dakota, representing the veterans. I don't know if that's the first or last name. I don't mean any disrespect. That's all I have, is all.
My first name, sir.
Hi. Well, welcome.
Thank you for having me. My name's Dakota.
Can I get a last name for the record?
Cerna. S-E-R-N-A.
Cerna. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for having me. I'll try to make it brief and quick. I more along the lines like to represent all veterans who are a little bit afraid to raise their voice about the benefits and the beautiful nature of this plant that is causing so many benefits in curing ailments and curing diseases and helping treating people. And like this beautiful young lady behind me said, smoking it isn't for everybody. You know, there's different ways of applying it to the system. If you can't smoke it, say you have asthma, and require a different application, there's all sorts of different ways to do it. And we can't be having that regulated, because if it's regulated, then it's setting us back. And my personal experience in smoking marijuana and using cannabis products came from my service in the Marine Corps. I served from 2003 to 2007. I joined right after high school, and I took part in the biggest urban battle since the Vietnam War, and that's Operation Phantom Fury, November of 2004. And I can go and talk for hours and hours on how horrible war is, but in fact, it's simple. There's nothing more horrible on this planet than war. And we're sending young men and women to die and see these horrible things, and then they come back and they're not left with many options. They're put on prescription pills that can take care of one thing but cause another ailment, and so they're put on another prescription for that, and so on and so on and so on. And my personal experience with that is those prescriptions were eating away my insides. They made me hostile. They made me suicidal. They made me a terrible person. And it wasn't until I literally had a rifle in my hand, ready just to snap and lose it, because I had no idea what was going on. It turned out that the medications were causing this, that I stopped. And I said, I need to grab a hold of my life. And simply put it, marijuana, cannabis gave me my life back. You know, life is beautiful to me again. I'm not lost. I'm not confused. I have a direction. I know which way to go. And it's not just me. This is veterans all across the country. I have friends that I went over there with that are just as messed up as I am. There's people that went to wars before my time that are even more messed up than I am, and I can't even imagine the stuff they went through. You know, I watched my best friend die at my feet. And that's something that you just don't forget about. You know, if you don't have the experience of seeing what it looks like to see a child murdered in the streets of a city, you know, that's something that you need to consider. I understand that there's a few of you that, like you said, sir, that you don't know anybody who needs medical marijuana, and therefore you don't can really talk about it in that sense. And I respect that. I understand. And my goal is to hopefully join hands with you in letting you understand how this is helping people, how it's helping me. and how it's bettering society as today, and there's nothing wrong with that. And that's all I have to say, and I appreciate it. Thank you for letting me take my time.
Thank you, Dakota. Thanks, Dakota. Suzanne Miller, is that right? Capital area. So you're from this area. You're representing a group called Normal, is that right? Come on up. Just so you know, the chief of staff for the Speaker of the House, the last Speaker of the House, the last chief of staff for the current Speaker was Suzanne Miller. So when you pick up a card and see Suzanne Miller is here to testify, he didn't expect to see you.
I'll take that as a compliment then.
We got Jeff Miller too?
Yes.
I have no special story about a Jeff Miller. But he's here and are you together?
Yes, he's my husband.
You want to come up together?
Because if it wasn't for him, I wouldn't really be here.
Okay, great. Well, it's nice to have both of you here.
Thank you so much. And thank you for offering us time to come in front of you and listen to what we have to say. And Dakota made me cry. So, anyway, my name is Suzanne. I'm from Gaylord, Michigan, and I have 4 boys. And as growing up, I was a misconception of marijuana because I would catch them all pie-eyed and like, what are you doing, what are you doing? Totally against it myself until I came into some problems myself. I do not like THC. It makes me feel uncontrolled. I don't like to be out of control. I like to be in control of what I'm doing, what I'm saying, how I'm acting. I have silent seizures, they're called, my MRIs, my CAT scans. My neurologist cannot figure out what they are. They happen all internally, and then it knocks me down for 3 to 4 hours of sleeping. So they put me on Ultram for migraine headaches. They put me on Celexa for depression, which I wasn't depressed, and then Xanax. They put me on Xanax, and then to help me sleep, they put me on Ambien. All of these medications actually take a piece of your liver away, and a liver is not repairable. So what I have found with the help of the cannabis world is a cannabinoid that's called CBD. It's one of the, help me with the term, one of the components of the actual plant, which does not have any kind of high to it. It's a healing component. And I was taking it via capsule. I'm not a smoker. I don't enjoy eating a lot of foods because of all my stomach issues I have. So I take it within a capsule, and within 20 minutes I get my relief. In the morning I take it, and then in the evening I take it. And I am happy to report I am off of all pharmaceutical medications. And my body is getting healthier and healthier. And as my big birthday approaches in the month of March, it's well. And I guess what I want to say, it's about safe access for both bills, 4271 and 5104. Even my mother-in-law, who's a survivor of cancer, is now in a preventive program with the CBD-rich oil, and she's lost too. Where do you get it? I don't want her, 80 years old, going on the streets to find her medicine. You never know who you're going to encounter. And then, granted, is it even safe? Is it tested? Did their plants have chemicals to fight all the disease that plants get? It's not like growing a weed. There's specifics to it. There's technology to it. And it's what you eat, too. It's just like your tomatoes and your food. If you don't take care of those, you're going to put yourself in those pollutants again within your body. So again, like the sergeant said, we have to work together to find out what's going to work for everybody, to keep it safe, to keep the people safe. And then if the people just want to use it for recreation, they're the ones that need to be sitting behind jail. It's not us that we're trying to do the best we can, trying to be healthy as we can. And I guess that's all I have to say, is where I've come. My seizures were 4 to 5 times a week, and now they're once a month. And I can go on being a grandmother. I can go on and work. And then the lotions and the salves that I have to put on my knees and my feet I've had 3 knee surgeries. And your tendons and your muscles don't repair the way they used to, especially when you get over the big 5-0.
No, I was just playing. Wasn't asking you to stop talking.
I was going to.
I thought you were going to make a specific age reference there, and I was
No,
gonna
we
stop
stop at 50.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah, and it's cupcakes every day of the month because it's your birthday month. So, but that's all I have to say. If it wasn't for him, I think I would still be totally hooked. And Ultram is a highly addictive prescription, and I have a very high addictive personality. I came from very alcoholic parents. I've encountered one son who was addicted to Oxycontin, Vicodin, and he used to crush them, snort them. I watched him go through that. But then I also watched medical marijuana be prescribed to him to help him get through that. And now he's focused. He's completely off of everything. He still holds his card. He doesn't participate. He doesn't smoke anymore, and he doesn't do any prescription drugs. And he's got his life back as Dakota, but not as intense as that. But out of 4 boys, watching them and wanting the best for them. And if it is something that's going to help everybody, great. But then again, there are certain things that we do have to take a look at. We have to take a look at, what is in it. Is it tested? Is it safe? Is it even safe to go and get it? So there are a lot of things, but I think if we all talk about it together, that we can reach a really good conclusion. I hope you guys will hurry because I need it.
Thank you.
That's all.
Jeff, did you want to add something?
Yeah. I guess the names Jeff and Suzanne Miller are pretty common.
Yeah, probably.
So I want to speak on behalf of my mother. She's an 80-year-old woman that does not smoke, does not drink. She has to have 2 total knee replacements this summer. So I actually started infusing it, and she's been putting it on at night as a topical, and she sleeps all night long now. And she's been in remission from stage 3 lymphoma for over 7 years now. Wow. I think that has contribution of...
Yeah, make you feel good too.
Yeah, it does. So, and for the access for the kids, it's very important that we get these seizure patients the correct medicine.
Yeah, I think in the last year and a half, I've learned more about medical marijuana than in the previous, however many years they were. And I want to thank all of you. We're going to run out of time, but I wanted to take a moment to thank you because most of you that came up shared part of a personal story that maybe wasn't easy to do. And I think everybody from the committee has benefited from the testimonies we've heard today. There is no intent of this chairman or this committee to be an obstructionist. We instead want to take a hard look to see that we do what we do in the way that doesn't have unintended consequences. So we will continue to work on this. I am going to go through and read the rest of the cards that are here, and whether you support or don't support the bills, we will read into that record. Then we will also read that into the record, and then we will put you at the first of the list when we come back together the next time, okay? Thank you, Jeff and Suzanne, for taking the time to be here today. Oh, I'm sorry, there is a question. Senator Whitmer? Oh. Maybe.
I'm just curious if you have an idea of kind of what our timeline might be, just so, for the people in the audience,
Yeah, we're going to have to talk about a work group. We're going to have to talk to the law enforcement folks and some of the other people about what they consider to be the problems and see where we go. So I'm going to guess it'd be hard to do very much before the end of maybe April. We might have a couple of weeks to look at, something like that.
Okay, well, I'm happy to work with you toward that end. I'd love to see us get this done before we broke for the summer.
Yeah, I would too. I would rather have me say one date and improve upon it than say another one and have it be later than that. Okay? So I'm a conservative. It's not my fault. All right, that's enough. That's enough. We will read these names into the record. They will be in there, and then I'll be around here because I don't have to be out of here quite as fast as some of the other members do. So I've got a few minutes if any of you want to come up and talk to me directly, okay? At this moment in time, thank you. I don't need to do anything else but adjourn? Okay, this committee is now adjourned. Yeah, we'll read them into it.